Hey everybody, it's Dave here from Dragonhill Games, and you're watching This Week in MTG Finance. As always, and before we get started, I want to thank MTG Stocks for allowing us to use graphical information for the purposes of this video. Alright, and before we get started, I just wanted to remind everybody about something that's definitely going to be impacting the MTG Finance market over the course of the next couple weeks and months. That's right, mystery boosters will be hitting your local game store this Friday, March 13th. I'll be doing a bunch of box opening videos for Mystery Booster this week, so if that's something that interests you, make sure you check those out. Alright, let's get to the big winners this week, and we're going to start right here in the number 10 spot with Conjurer's Closet from Commander Anthology. This one was on our list last week, and it's up another 21% this week. So Conjurer's Closet is gaining a lot of interest over the last few weeks since the release of Theros, and that's because it essentially goes hand in hand with the new Thassa Deep Dwelling. Both of them basically have the same effect where it allows you to exile one of your creatures at the beginning of your end step and then return it to the battlefield under your control. So basically allowing you to double down on strategies that blink ETB creatures. Really effective in Commander for sure. And in the number 9 spot this week, we have Triumph of the Hordes from New Phyrexia. Card's almost $13, and it's been on basically a slow and steady increase since about 2016. Now, it's never had another printing, although it is going to be in the upcoming Mystery Booster cards. And obviously, this $100 price tag that's listed here is not going to be representative of the true value of the Mystery Booster cards. They just haven't hit the market yet, so prices haven't settled. But back to the New Phyrexia version. So, for 2 green and a 2 mana, until end of turn, creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain trample and infect. Card doesn't really see play in any formats other than Commander, but as you can imagine, you can give somebody a pretty bad day by casting Triumph of the Hordes and having your creatures trample on over and infect them to death. And the number 8 card on the list this week is Knight of the White Orchard, specifically the Shards of Alara version, priced around $7.30. Of note, the Dual Decks Knight vs. Dragons copy can be had for around $4.25, and the Magic Origins versions is about $1 cheaper at $6.20. So this card's up 22% this week. And if you remember back in December when it hit about $5, I called my long-term goal on this card being around $10. And over the months, we've been kind of slowly creeping up towards that. That's still where I'm at with this card. I think barring a reprint, it just gets a ton of attention. Look at all these decks it's in Pioneer, right? Like it's a champ in White Weenies for sure. So if we don't get any reprints and new supplies, I think White Weenie will be a popular deck in Pioneer for, the foreseeable future. My long-term goal on this card is still around $10. Taking up the number 7 slot this week, we have Royal Elemental, and it's only ever been printed in Zendikar. Card's currently around $11.50, and it's up another 23% this week. It's really cool if you think about this card. So for 3 blue and 3, we get a flying 3/2 elemental creature with landfall. And whenever a land enters the battlefield under our control, we may gain control of target creature for as long as we retain control of Royal Elemental. So obviously really good in Commander. Grab up other people's commanders or their Avacins, make them really, really annoyed. So card really started getting attention back in July of last year, and it's been on sort of a slow and steady increase since then. So it's the good old supply and demand here, right, at work here. So only printing is Zendikar. Zendikar was a long time ago. Supplies are definitely dwindling. As long as people demand this card and keep demanding it, price is going to keep increasing. And in the number 6 slot this week, and on the list again for the 3rd week in a row, is Doomsday, specifically the Classic 6th edition. It's currently at almost $18, and this particular printing is up another 24% this week. This thing's a diesel train, right? I mean, we've obviously gone over it over the last couple of weeks. Doomsday combos with Thassa's Oracle. Okay, so we all know what it does, right? Not so much that it's popular in Legacy, although there definitely is decks that run a Doomsday in Legacy. This is really getting a lot of attention in Commander for sure. So we still have the Weatherlight printing at $13.50, and most notably the Masters 25 with the cool new art and black border at $11.50. So if you need a copy, folks, grab up the Masters 25 while you can still get it for around this price. All right, halfway there, and in the number 5 spot, we have Willow Sage from Legends. It's the only printing of this card. In fact, it's on the reserve list. Currently valued at around $70, and it's not new territory for this card. Back in May of 2018, we actually hit an all-time high of just over $72. So this card's up 40% this week. If you think about it, it's just a really cool card. It's not banned in Commander, which is likely the only place it will ever be played. For 2 green and 2, essentially we can tap Willow Sage and gain control of a legend. As long as we don't untap Willow Sage, which we're not forced to during our normal untap step, and if we don't lose control of Willow Sage for whatever reason, we retain control of whatever we stole with it. So obviously really good ways to take advantage of this in Commander for sure. And the price is simply because of extremely low supply. And in the number 4 slot this week, we have Orbs Chant from Planeshift. So card's at $13.95, and it's up 64% this week. So if you remember last week, we had Silence on our list, and Orbs Chant is basically the legacy version of Silence. So for 1 white at instant speed, target player can't play spells this turn, and we can pay 1 white to kick it. If we do, creatures can't attack this turn. So essentially what legacy players are doing with this is assuring that their Underworld Breach combo is going to go off. Or if they happen to be using it, it's also getting utilized in like Thassa, various Thassa decks as well. So just kind of make sure your opponent's not going to be doing anything on the turn you plan to go off. And in the number 3 spot this week, we have Sabines Reclamation. It's kind of a funny one. It's only been printed in Commander 2019. So it's at about $7, and this card's up 71% this week. So Sabines Reclamation is 1 white and 2. It's a sorcery, and we can return target permanent card with converted mana cost 3 or less from our graveyard to the battlefield. If this spell was cast from a graveyard, you may copy the spell and choose new targets for the copy. And it has a flashback cost of 1 white and 4. So essentially getting utilized in Underworld Breach decks as sort of a backup plan, way to bring back Underworld Breach in case something bad happens. And in the number 2 spot this week, we have one of the most hated cards in Commander. That's right, it's Flash, namely the Masters 25 version. So currently valued at $4.50, and this card's up 95% this week. But bear in mind that this all-time high on this card is $9, so we're quite a bit off of that mark. And you can still get the classic 6th edition and the Mirage printings for around the $3 mark. So as I mentioned, nothing will get you hated more in Commander than playing a Flash Hulk combo. If you're not familiar with that, essentially Flash is 1 blue and 1. It's an instant. You can put a creature from your hand onto the battlefield, and then you have to sack it unless you pay its converted mana cost reduced by up to 2. But people throw Hulk onto the Protean Hulk onto the battlefield, and then go get out combo pieces and just win the game outright. You can do this actually as early as turn 1 if you have the Magical Christmas Land hand, but the deck is usually really consistent and will win on turn 2 or 3 fairly consistently. So, like I said, nothing will get you hated more in your playgroup and not invited to your next Commander session than playing a deck like Flash Hulk. And our number 1 winner this week is Hallie Odds Intervention from Theros Beyond Death. Currently valued at almost $2.40, and this card's up a whopping 138% this week. So if you think about this, it's really good. I mean, it does appear in some Standard and Pioneer decks, but this card is really super good in Commander, and actually one of my long-term watch cards. So for just 2 white mana and X at instant speed, we can destroy X target artifacts and or enchantments. Or we can gain twice X life, which isn't going to be relevant very often, but in Commander, for sure, destroying X target artifacts and or enchantments. I mean, there's always a ton of things like mana rocks and various other enchantments in play in Commander. So just being able to, at instant speed, pick off, a bunch of your opponent's annoying artifacts and enchantments makes for a really good, solid include in any deck that's running white in Commander. Now, even though we're up 138% this week, I think that $2.40 is still a relatively good entry point for this card. And barring any reprints in some future decks, I think that this has a lot of long-term potential, probably hitting the $5 to $10 range in the long term. So still a good pickup at $2.40, and it was our weekly winner. All right, and before we get into cards I'm investing in this week, as always, if you're a subscriber, you know I want to thank you for being here. We really appreciate your support. And if not, now's a great time to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We post at least 2 videos every week. The first one I have for you guys this week is Cloithus, God of Destiny, specifically the showcase version, currently priced around $7, which is not much more than the regular sort of pack printing version at $6.59. As you can see, it's getting played in all kinds of decks, but this is just a good sort of a long-term investment. Almost all of the gods always do well because they end up in a bunch of commander decks and get utilized with different modern and pioneer strategies down the road for sure. So considering the fact that it's only just a few cents more than the regular pack version, and personally I think the showcase versions are really cool looking, I think this is a great pickup at $6.83. In fact, the Hallie Odds is actually cheaper for the showcase version than the regular pack version at $16. And as you guys can see, Hallie Odds is also getting played in a ton of decks, both in modern, pioneer, even some legacy and other decks too, right? So $16 for the Hallie Odds showcase version is a steal as well. So the next one I have from you guys is a couple of Shocklands, namely reprints from the recent Ravnica sets. So we'll start here with Stomping Grounds. And I know I've mentioned Shocklands before, but I'm going to keep trying to pound this home. Any Shocklands that you can grab up under $10, like grab them. So, I mean, Stomping Grounds at just $8, right? I mean, this is one of the lowest prices we've seen. Actually, it is an all-time low price on this particular printing of Stomping Ground. But most of the other ones are around the $9 mark for the Gate Crash, and the original Guild Pack printing is closer to $20. I mean, I don't need to say it, like these lands get played in all kinds of decks in all kinds of formats. So it's just a good, solid, sort of safe bet for the future. As we get sort of further away from these Ravnica sets being open, which is pretty much done, but people have been kind of going back to them lately because there's so much value, especially in the Ravnica Allegiance set. There's so much value with some of these sets that they're actually starting to get opened again. And that's kind of why we're seeing some dips in the prices. But Watery Grave sitting around $9.70, way up off of all-time lows, but still an excellent value at under $10. And this is one of the most utilized lands in the game, right? I mean, the original Ravnica version is $21. Even the Gate Crash version's $11. So, there's a couple of dollars gap difference there for sure. And this new art is really just phenomenal, right? Compared to some of the art, a lot of people don't really like the sort of Gate Crash printing art on, some of these cards. So definitely the new art will be sought after in the future. And I mean, look at these lands. Shocklands appear in hundreds and hundreds of decks, like I said, in every format. So scooping up these ones, especially these two, Stomping Ground and Watery Grave, for under the $10 mark is just a phenomenal investment for the future. All right, and the last one I have for you guys this week is Intuition from Tempest. Now I know what you're thinking, it's almost a $50 card, right? We're at $48. Card's bouncing up off of its recent all-time lows, and by recent I mean within the last couple of years. We hit lows of around $45, pretty much right on the mark. So we're up about $3 off of those all-time lows, right? Cards had all-time high of nearly $76, and it is on the reserve list. So supplies of this card are extremely, extremely low. Now, bear in mind that this is a lot of use in Commander, but it's more recently getting a lot of attention from Underworld Breach. So for me, this card is kind of a watch. I mean, we're going to be getting a banned and restricted announcement today. That's Monday, March 9th. We're getting a banned and restricted announcement. So there's a lot of chatter about Underworld Breach potentially getting hit in one or more formats. And if it did get hit in Legacy, then I would no longer consider Intuition as an investment opportunity right now. Although I will say that, you know, these are up off of recent lows. It's been a long time since this card's been below sort of where it is now, like a couple of years, right? So, and there's a lot of upside potential here. I mean, we had highs around $76. So, excellent opportunity, especially if Underworld Breach doesn't get hit in Legacy. And like I said, card will always get used in things like Commander and things like that. So, I think the downside risk is relatively low, but there is a lot of upside potential here. All right, I really hope you guys enjoyed watching This Week in MTG Finance. If you did, go ahead and smash that like button. It really helps me out. And like I said, look forward to those mystery booster box opening videos this week. All right, bye for now.